GHS, Global Harmonization System. Part 2, Labels. This training session is designed to provide information to employees who work with hazardous chemicals and substances. Employers are required to provide training on the new GHS labels to employees by December 1st, 2013. The standardization for all product labels. Each label must include a product identifier, a supplier information, signal word, hazard pictogram, hazard statement, precautionary statement. Each label may include supplemental information. This is an example of the new label style that is to appear on product labels beginning no later than June 1st, 2015 or December 1st, 2015 for distributors who still have product in inventory after the June 1st, 2015 deadline. The type of required information is noted in blue. The actual statements and information will vary depending on the specific health and physical classification of the product. Product identifier and supplier information. Definition of product identifier. Product identifier means the name or number used for a hazardous chemical on a label or in the SDS. It provides a unique means by which the user can identify the chemical. The product identifier used shall permit cross-references to be made among the list of hazardous chemicals required in the written hazard communication program, the label, and the SDS. Signal word. Signal word quickly communicates the relative severity of the hazard. Only two signal words will appear: danger, which is more severe hazard, and warning, which is a less severe hazard. Only one signal word is permitted per label. Not all labels will have a signal word. Some chemicals are not hazardous enough to require that a signal word appear on the label. Pictograms. There are three pictograms specific to health hazard: exclamation, health hazard, which is a silhouette of a person with a starburst on the chest, and the skull and crossbones. There is one pictogram that can represent both physical and/or health hazard of corrosive. Fourth from the left. There are four pictograms specific to the physical hazards: exploding bomb, flame, flame over circle, which is an oxidizer, and a gas cylinder. The middle pictogram is for environmental hazards. Health hazard pictograms. The exclamation point represents irritant, skin sensitizer, acute toxicity, narcotic effects, respiratory tract irritant, hazard to ozone layer. The silhouette of a person with a starburst across the chest is used to indicate that the substance is a chronic and/or target organ hazard, which represents carcinogen, mutagenicity, reprotoxicity, respiratory sensitizer, target organ toxicity, or aspiration toxicity. The pictogram where the product is being poured onto a surface will represent skin corrosion and burns, eye damage, and corrosive to metals. The pictogram with the skull and crossbones will represent acute toxicity, fatal or toxic. Physical hazard pictograms. The pictogram where a product is exploding is explosive, self-reactive organic peroxide. The pictogram of a flame is flammables, self-reactives, pyrophorics, self-heating, emits flammable gas, and organic peroxides. The gas cylinder pictogram is gases under pressure. The pictogram with the circle and flames is an oxidizer, and the pictogram with the substance being poured onto a surface is for corrosive to metals. Labels concerning hazard statement. Hazard statement means a statement assigned to a hazard class and category that describes the nature of the hazard or hazards of a chemical, including, where appropriate, the degree of hazard. There are specific hazard statements that must appear on the label based on the chemical hazard classification. Examples are flammable liquid and vapor, causes skin irritation, or may cause cancer. Hazard statements regarding class and severity. A specific harmonized hazard statement for each level, degree of hazard within each hazard class. For an example, flammable liquids. A Category 1 is extremely flammable liquid and vapor. A Category 2 is highly flammable liquid and vapor. A Category 3 is flammable liquid and vapor, where a Category 4 is combustible liquid. Precautionary statements. Precautionary statement means a phrase that describes recommended measures that should be taken to minimize or prevent adverse effects resulting from exposure to a hazard chemical or improper storage or handling. Examples of this is wear respiratory protection, wash with soap and water, or store in a well-ventilated place. Precautionary statements and additional information. Precautionary statements are not necessarily a mandate for employees to follow. The employer is to evaluate the precautionary statements to determine if these need to be followed by employees. This decision may be based on several factors. How a chemical is used. Where is it used? Ventilation concerns. How much of the chemical is used in quantity. Air sampling or testing results. Permissible exposure limits. How long the chemical is used over time, and other considerations. Precautionary statement employer evaluation example. A precautionary statement may state wear respiratory protection. Employees may not be required to wear a respirator based on the employer's evaluation of the factors previously listed on how, where, how much, or time, or if they are using it outdoors. Other information that is discretionary. Other information that may be included on the label could be physical state, color, hazards not otherwise classified, route of exposure, storage and disposal, hazard prevention and emergency response instructions. This is an example of a simple GHS label. This is an example of a more complex GHS label. This is an example of a current label. This is an example of a current GHS compliant label. Product in use in the workplace or ready to use. Secondary labeling systems are still permitted. They must be consistent with the new HAZCOM standard. No conflicting hazard warnings or pictograms may be on them. They may use written material such as signs or placards in lieu of affixing labels to individual stationary process containers. Employer can use GHS compliant labels, same as shipping. Understanding the number information differences. The GHS nomenclature is that a Category 1 is a severe hazard, where a Category 5 is a minimal hazard. Under the HMIS and NFPA nomenclature, a Category 0 is minimal, where a Category 4 is a severe hazard. Recently, the HMIS has developed a new format. The new format to compliant GHS and avoid confusion with numbering. Summary of action plans. What the employer must do. Train employees on new 2012 HCS labels and SDSs. These must be completed by December 1st, 2013. Update SDS and labels, where the manufacturer must have this done by June 1st, 2015. Distributors will sell through until December 1st, 2015. Update workplace labels and facility-specific written programs must be completed by June 1st, 2016.